Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. COP28 of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change concludes with the adoption of the first global stocktake. United Nations Convention Against Corruption completes 20 years. Lok Adalats disposed of over 25 lakh disputes in a day. The Global Status Report on Road Safety 2023 has been released by the World Health Organization. Skilling NGO Unnati becomes the first to be listed on Social Stock Exchange. 7.68 lakh crore rupees has been provided to self-help groups since 2013-14. Starting with today's first news, COP28 of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change concluded with the adoption of the first global stocktake. The global stocktake is a process for countries to see where they are collectively making progress towards meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement. It is like taking inventory. In the Paris Agreement of 2015, it was decided that countries would assess their progress for the first time in 2023 and then every 5 years. Now let's take a look at some key highlights of the global stocktake. It underscores the need to cut 43% of GHG emissions by 2030 compared to 2019 levels. But it notes that parties are off track to meeting their Paris Agreement goals. For the first time, parties agreed on transitioning away from fossil fuels and will achieve net zero emissions by 2050 in a just and equitable manner. Parties also agreed on the Global Goal on Adaptation Framework. The framework reflects a global consensus on adaptation targets and the need for finance, technology, and capacity building support to achieve them. Other important commitments include tripling of global installed capacity of renewable energy by 2030, doubling the global average annual rate of energy efficiency improvements by 2030, and accelerating efforts to the phase down of unabated coal power. Unabated coal power here refers to the use of coal without substantial efforts to reduce the emissions. COP29 in 2024 will be hosted by Azerbaijan and COP30 in 2025 by Brazil. Moving on to the next news, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption has completed 20 years. On December 9, 2003, the UN Convention Against Corruption was signed in Mexico and it entered into force in the year 2005. So what is the convention all about? Let's take a look at its key features. The UN Convention Against Corruption is the only legally binding universal anti-corruption instrument. It has 190 parties, which includes India. The convention covers different forms of corruption such as bribery, trading in influence, abuse of functions, and various acts of corruption in the private sector. It covers 5 main areas which include preventive measures like establishment of anti-corruption bodies, criminalization and law enforcement under which states are obliged to establish some offences, international cooperation. Under the convention, states are bound to render mutual legal assistance, asset recovery, and technical assistance and information exchange. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime serves as the custodian of the convention and as the secretariat of its Conference of States Parties. Conference of the States Parties is the main policy-making body of the convention. It meets every 2 years and adopts resolutions and decisions to further its mandate. Now the question is, how successful has the convention been in achieving its mandate? The convention has been successful in providing a comprehensive framework to combat corruption. Notably, it has achieved near universal ratification. Also, the review mechanism of the convention is triggering concrete anti-corruption measures. Moreover, the convention has contributed to establishing new institutions and anti-corruption policies. However, the convention faces a number of challenges as well. For example, the convention does not define corruption. Also, there is a gap between laws, institutions, and their effectiveness. Additionally, its review process does not require civil society engagement. Moving on, Lok Adalats disposed of over 25 lakh disputes in a day. Lok Adalat is an alternative dispute redressal mechanism. Alternative dispute redressal mechanisms involve various methods of resolving conflicts outside of the traditional court system. They have played key role in reducing the burden of judiciary and have provided a speedy, cheaper, and more amicable approach to resolve conflict. Now let's take a look at some key aspects of Lok Adalats. They are established under the Legal Services Authorities Act of 1987. Lok Adalats are constituted at different levels. They are created at the national level, state authority level, high court level, district court level, and taluk level. National level Lok Adalats are held at regular intervals, where on a single day Lok Adalats are held throughout the country. An interesting thing to know is that mobile Lok Adalats are also organized. Talking about the jurisdiction of Lok Adalats, they handle disputes or cases pending in the court of law or at pre-litigation stage. They take on several nature of cases like civil cases, matrimonial disputes, land disputes, partition or property disputes, and labor disputes. Lok Adalats have the same powers as are vested in a civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure of 1908. Their decisions and awards are final and binding on all parties, and no appeal lies to any court against its award. Now, apart from Lok Adalats, there are some other alternative dispute redressal mechanisms in India, which include arbitration, which is a quasi-judicial proceeding whose decision is binding; mediation, in which decision-making is done on voluntary and consensual basis; and conciliation, in which a conciliator assists the parties to reach a mutually satisfactory agreed settlement. The decisions of conciliation are non-binding.
Recently, the Global Status Report on Road Safety 2023 has been released by the World Health Organization. The report covers progress between 2010 and 2021 and sets a baseline for efforts to meet the United Nations Decade of Action target to halve road traffic deaths by 2030. Let's go through the key findings in the report. The global fatality rate per lakh population has fallen by 16% since 2010. 9 in 10 deaths occur in low and middle income countries. As of 2022, 140 countries have legislations meeting WHO best practices for at least one of the 5 key risk factors. 131 countries have national legislation mandating third-party liability insurance for vehicles. The measures that can be taken include legislation, policies, plans, and strategies related to multimodal transport use, road safety inspections and audits, specifying minimum safety standards for vehicles, concerted action for speed management, laws governing road user behaviors, and lastly, legislation on distracted driving. India has launched some initiatives related to road safety. High priority is being given to identify and rectify black spots. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Act 2019 hikes penalties for traffic violations. Indian Road Safety Campaign. The Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has formulated a 4 E's strategies. The 4 E's being education, engineering, enforcement, and emergency care. Coming to the next news, the skilling NGO Unnati has become the first to be listed on Social Stock Exchange or SSE. SSE is a separate segment of the stock exchange that can help social enterprises to raise funds from the public through the stock exchange mechanism. To be recognized as a social enterprise, organizations need to demonstrate that 67% of their activities have targeted underserved or less privileged population segments or regions which have recorded lower performance in the development priorities of central or state governments. Not-for-profit organizations or NPOs and for-profit social enterprises can also list themselves in SSEs. Fundraising can be done through issuance of zero-coupon, zero-principal bonds and donations through mutual funds for NPOs. Such bonds are issued only by an NPO registered on a social stock exchange and have a specific tenure. No principal is repaid on maturity. Fundraising can also be done through the issuance of equities and debt instruments for profit social enterprises. Let's go through the significance of SSEs. They bridge trust and credibility gap between the social sector and individuals. They enhance transparency and reporting standards over the functioning of the NPOs. They reduce burden on government by leveraging private sector participation. Certain enterprises are not eligible to be identified as social enterprises. For example, corporate foundations, political or religious organizations, professional or trade associations, infrastructure and housing companies, except affordable housing. Coming to the next news, 7.68 lakh crore rupees have been provided to self-help groups or SHGs since 2013-14. Self-help groups Bank Linkage Program or SHG BLP initiative has played a key role in facilitating credit for SHGs. It was started by National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development or NABARD in 1992. Its aim is to deliver financial services to the poor and vulnerable sections of society. Its key components are credit linkage of SHGs through bank accounts, sensitization of branch managers, assisting SHGs by positioning of bank sakhis at rural branches, and inculcating community-based repayment mechanism. SHGs are a voluntary small informal group of 10 to 20 individuals, 5 in cases of hilly areas or scattered population. They come together for promoting savings habit among members and for a common cause to raise and manage resources for the benefit of group members. Let's go through the transformation brought about by the SHGs. They promote entrepreneurship culture in rural areas. They encourage social equity and gender equality as most of the SHGs are being run by women. For example, Kudumbashri in Kerala, Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal in Maharashtra. Lastly, SHGs facilitate microloans to members to sustain businesses. However, there are a few challenges faced by SHGs like the lack of proper training and skill development, existing patriarchal mindset which restrict women participation. Several initiatives have been taken under the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihoods Mission to promote SHGs. The launching of Saksham Centers which facilitates delivery of financial services to SHGs, Startup Village Entrepreneurship Program which enables SHGs to set up non-farm enterprises at rural level, Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana, and lastly, Lakpati Didi scheme. The place in the news for today is Poland, the capital of which is Warsaw. Recently, Donald Tusk has become the new Prime Minister of Poland. Coming to the political features of Poland, it lies in the Central Europe and is bordered by Baltic Sea in the north, Russia and Lithuania in the northeast, Belarus and Ukraine in the east, Slovakia and Czech Republic in the south, and Germany in the west. Poland is a member of the European Union. Let's briefly discuss its geographical features. Carpathians, Sudeten and Tatra mountains are its major mountains, while its major rivers are Vistula, Neisse, Oder and Motlava. Mount Risi is its highest point.
As we conclude today's main news, let's go through some quick updates. The term anarcho-capitalism has recently gained popularity. Anarcho-capitalism refers to a political philosophy which calls for the abolition of the state and for the provision of law and order to be controlled by private companies in a free market. The US and the EU have imposed countervailing duties on Indian products against the scheme for remission of duties and taxes on exported products. Countervailing duties are tax or tariffs levied on imported goods to counter or offset the export subsidies given to producers of goods in the exporting country. Argentina has devalued its currency Argentine peso to handle the economic crisis. Devaluation is the deliberate attempt by the government or central bank to lower its currency value. A new species of marine amphipod has been found in Chilika Lake in Odisha. Chilika Lake is Asia's largest brackish water and the world's second largest coastal lagoon. It was the first Indian wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention. Recently, a Royal Bengal tiger was spotted at Pango Lakha Wildlife Sanctuary in Sikkim. The wildlife sanctuary lies in the Pango Lakha range of Himalayan mountains which separates Sikkim from Bhutan. The Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities has banned online and over-the-counter sale of hearing aids. The Office of Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities was established under Section 57 of the Persons with Disabilities Act of 1995. It works under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Actocyte nutraceutical tablets have shown remarkable results in enhancing the quality of life for cancer patients. Nutraceutical refers to a food product that provides medical or health benefits, including the prevention and treatment of disease. The tablet minimizes the side effects of radiotherapy and has been developed by the Department of Atomic Energy along with the private pharma company. NASA is preparing to launch Plankton Aerosol Cloud and Ocean Ecosystem or PACE mission in early 2024. The mission will provide a combination of global atmospheric and oceanic observations. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.